one time or another in their life wants a fresh start. Maybe it's a big, huge fresh start. You've been caught up in a bunch of stuff and you're like, I just need to move on. Maybe it's a small fresh start where maybe you said something that you shouldn't have said to somebody. And every year, January 1st, people make these resolutions. And like 90% of these things fail. See, for many people, they believe a fresh start is a clean slate, but a fresh start isn't always a clean slate. In the Old Testament, there's a story about a man named Nehemiah. Nehemiah is an Israelite. He's a Jew. And at this point in time, he is a cupbearer to the king of Persia. To get that position, you have to be very, very well liked and well trusted. Persia had conquered the Babylonian Empire, who had conquered Jerusalem. So Jerusalem, the capital city of the Jewish people, is under Persian rule. And Nehemiah is a trusted advisor of the king. So Nehemiah had a great affinity for Jerusalem, and he knew the history of Jerusalem. He understood that it was once a great city, a great nation, but right now it was under Persian rule. Nehemiah's brother shows up at the castle and has a conversation with Nehemiah. And Nehemiah asks, how is the city and the people? And in Nehemiah chapter 1, verses 3 and 4, it says that they said to me, those who survived the exile and are back in the province are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down and its gates have been burned with fire. The news that Nehemiah hears is that the city is in ruin and has no defenses and is very, very vulnerable. So Nehemiah does three things upon hearing this news. He cries, he's sorrowful, he fasts, and he prays. I want you to listen to the prayer of Nehemiah. Lord, the God of heaven, the great and awesome God who keeps his covenant of love with those who love him and keep his commandments. Let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer your servant is praying before you day and night for your servants, the people of Israel. I confess the sins we Israelites, including myself and my father's family, have committed against you. We have acted very wickedly toward you, and we have not obeyed the commands, decrees, and laws that you have gave your servant Moses. So the first part of Nehemiah's prayer is, God, please hear us. And then the second part is he says, we've messed up. We've sinned. And he says it's collective. Collectively, we have sinned against you. And see, a fresh start begins with owning the past. It's really hard to move forward when you won't own what's behind you. You have to be able to look and say, look, I did this. I did that. We did this. We did that. And the prayer continues. He says, remember the instruction you gave your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. And that's what has happened. That's why the Israelites are in exile. But if you return to me and obey my commands, then even if your exiled people are at the furthest horizon, I will gather them from where they are, from there and bring them to the place I have chosen as a dwelling for my name. They are your servants and your people, whom you redeemed by your great strength and your mighty hand. Lord, let your ear be attentive to the prayer of your servant and to the prayer of your servants who delighted in revering your name. Give your servant success today by granting him favor in the presence of this man. He's talking about the king of Persia. So kind of to unpack that a little bit, Nehemiah is praying a prayer of saying, look, help me be successful. I know something needs to be done in Jerusalem, and I'm going to go have a conversation with the king. One of the coolest things for me in the story of Nehemiah is that there's no great miracle that happens. Like you can't point to book, chapter, and verse where God lays the foundation for the city wall and then Nehemiah completes it. No. They do all of the work. The story of Nehemiah is a story of a leader who does. So many of us are caught up waiting for our purpose. We don't move forward. We don't advance at all. I hear people that'll say, I need to know what one thing God has equipped and empowered me to do more than anybody else, and I just need to be in that lane and do what I need to do. I say it's kind of like dating. There's two words that when it comes to dating that drives me crazy. It's soulmate. I love my wife. I'm committed to my wife. I made the decision that she is the only woman that I will love and cherish and honor. The only one. But I do believe that I could have made that same commitment to any number of women. And Sue could have made that commitment to any number of men, way more. She probably had a lot more options than I did. But I don't buy into the soulmate, that there's one person Just one. And I don't believe that there's only one called path for you. I believe that you can do what God has called you to do anywhere. I believe that God has called you to a life of obedience. You can be obedient no matter what you're doing. You can love God anywhere. And you can love others no matter what you're doing. When Jesus was asked, what is the most important thing for me to do? He says, love God, love others. We need to stop waiting on a big sign from God before we do what we know we should do. We try to I've got a 18-year-old son. He's just graduating. Do you know the pressure that is on that kid? Like, it's incredible, the pressure that we put on 18-year-olds and 23-year-olds. At 18 years old, do you know that your brain is not fully developed? The part that makes wise decisions is not yet fully developed. And this is what we're asking 18-year-old boys and girls. We want you to make the decision on what you're going to do for the rest of your life. I know that your brain isn't developed. I know that it's not functioning at its full capacity yet. Not only do I want you to tell me today what you're going to do, I want you to sign up for $100,000 in debt to tell me what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And then we do it again when they're 23 years old, when they graduate college. You got to make this decision. You got to make this decision. And I just think, man, the pressure that we're putting on. And here's what I realize. There are people in this room that have been retired for 4 or 5 years. You still don't have it figured out. And I'm just here to tell you, you know what your purpose is? Be obedient, love God, and love others. How does the world know that you're a follower of Jesus? In the way that you love one another. It's mission critical. If you're like, I want to live on purpose for God. I want to live in the will of God. Here, I'm going to give it to you. Love people. And so I want you to know that you're called, no matter how lost you feel, you're called to love people. And if you start there, you will not miss the mark. If you love God, love others, you will not miss the mark with Jesus. But if you go your entire life sitting in rows, giving money, singing songs, and you despise the people that you're around, you've lived contrary to what God has called you to do. How many of you guys, if you're honest, struggle with asking for help? Pride keeps people from getting a fresh start. Many people will sit alone in need of help and just suffer through it. And then at the end, you're like, well, why didn't you ask me for help? I just don't do that. And fear wants to take you from a fresh start back into a ruined rubble. Fear wants to convince you that everything that you're trying to achieve in your walk with God can't happen. Fear is impractical, and fear wants you to quit. Typically, when God's calling you to move and the fear is telling you to stay, it'll tell you that you're going to end up alone. It's going to tell you that you're going to end up and nobody's going to love you. You're going to lose your reputation. You're going to lose all this stuff. And maybe some of that's true, but I promise you, you'll not end up completely alone because Jesus will never leave you. If you step into the truth, if you step into the light, then God is for you, not against you.
Hey, thank you guys so much for checking out that video. If you want to see more from us, you can like and subscribe. We'll be posting more stuff every week. If you want to connect with us, you can check us out on our socials or on our website, Marlborochristian.com, where we'll have more information about what we have coming up. Thank you guys again for checking out that video. We'll see you in the next one.